The first thing I saw when I came home after 3 weeks was my wife sitting on the kitchen floor, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. The second thing I saw was my 12-year-old son standing beside her, confused and terrified. Then he looked at me and said, "Dad, Mom won't tell me what happened, but she keeps asking if you're angry." I dropped my suitcase, because before I left, my wife had kissed me at the door and promised everything was fine. But now our home felt like a place where something terrible had happened. And when I checked the one thing she begged me not to look at, I realized the person who had betrayed us wasn't a stranger. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 43 years old, and for the last 16 years, I've worked as a safety inspector for industrial sites. My job takes me away for days, sometimes weeks. I inspect factories, construction projects, and chemical plants. I make sure workers follow safety rules before someone gets hurt. Pays well, but there is a cost. Every time I leave, I miss birthdays, school events, family dinners, and ordinary moments I can never get back. My wife, Rachel, always told me she understood. "We're building a future," she would say, and I believed her. We had been married for 14 years. We had one son, Ethan. Ethan was 12, funny, curious, and obsessed with space. He wanted to become an engineer. Every night before I traveled, I would tell him, "Keep an eye on your mom while I'm gone." He would laugh. "Dad, Mom takes care of me." Then I would hug Rachel and promise, 3 weeks, then I'm home. That was exactly what I told them before my last job. The project was in another state. The work was exhausting. 12-hour days, cold hotel rooms, video calls that always ended too quickly. Rachel seemed different during those calls. Quiet, distracted. Sometimes she would look away from the camera. When I asked what was wrong, she always said, "Nothing. I'm just tired." I wanted to believe her, so I did. That was my first mistake. 3 weeks later, I drove home. I bought Ethan a small telescope. For Rachel, I bought a silver necklace. I imagined her opening the door. I imagined Ethan running outside. But when I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. It was only 6 in the evening. I noticed something strange. The curtains were closed. The front porch light was off. And Rachel's car was parked crookedly. She never parked crookedly. I carried my suitcase to the door. It was unlocked. "Rachel." No answer. "Ethan." Still nothing. Then I heard crying. I followed the sound to the kitchen. Rachel was sitting on the floor. Her hair was messy. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. Ethan stood beside her. "Dad." He ran toward me. I hugged him. "What happened?" He looked back at Rachel. "I don't know. She's been crying all day." Rachel covered her face. "Daniel." I knelt beside her. "What happened? Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Is Ethan okay?" "Yes." "Then tell me." She looked into my eyes, and I saw fear, not sadness. Fear. "Please," she whispered. "Don't ask questions tonight." I stared at her. "What?" "Just please. Let me explain later." Ethan looked confused. "Mom, why won't you tell Dad?" Rachel stood quickly. "I'm going upstairs." She walked away. I followed her. "Rachel, stop." She turned around. Tears ran down her face. "You were gone for 3 weeks. I know. You don't understand what happened here. Then help me understand." She looked toward Ethan's room. Then she lowered her voice. "Promise me you won't get angry." That question made my stomach tighten. Why would I be angry? "Promise me." "I can't promise anything until I know what happened." She closed her eyes. Then she said, "Don't check the bank account." I froze. "What?" "Please." "Why?" "Because it will make everything worse." That was when I knew this wasn't only about tears. Something had happened while I was gone. Something Rachel was terrified to tell me. I walked into my office. Rachel followed me. "Daniel, don't." I opened my laptop. The bank website loaded. First, everything looked normal. Then I saw the balance. Our savings account was almost empty. We had saved for 11 years. There had been $86,000. Now there was less than $4,000. I stared at the screen. My hands went cold. Rachel. She began crying again. I'm sorry. Where is the money? I didn't want this. Where is it? She sat in the chair. I thought I could fix it before you came home. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it. Fix what? Rachel looked down. Then she whispered, my brother called me. Her brother was Mark, 46 years old, divorced, always in debt, always asking for help. I never trusted him. 2 years earlier I had told Rachel, we can help him once, but we can't keep rescuing him. Rachel promised she understood. So when she said his name, anger rushed through me. What did Mark do? He said someone was threatening him. What kind of threat? He said he owed money. How much? $20,000. I stared at her. You gave him $20,000? Rachel shook her head. Not exactly. What does that mean? He said he could pay it back in 2 weeks. Rachel. I was scared. So you gave him our money? She started crying harder. I didn't know what else to do. I wanted to shout. I wanted to ask how she could make that decision without calling me. But Ethan was downstairs, so I lowered my voice. Where is the rest? Rachel went silent. What do you mean? The account is missing more than $20,000. She covered her face. Mark called again. My anger turned into disbelief. How many times? 3. How much did you give him? She whispered. $70,000. For several seconds I couldn't speak. The money was gone. The college fund we had planned to grow. The emergency savings. The money we had saved for a home. Gone. And Rachel had given it away without telling me. I felt betrayed. Humiliated. But beneath the anger was something worse. Regret. I had been away so often. I had left Rachel to handle everything alone. Had she become so afraid that she believed she had no one else? Still, none of that explained why she was terrified. I looked at her. Why didn't you call me? Mark told me not to. Why? He said you would call the police. I would have. That's why. I stood up. Where is he? I don't know. Did he sign anything? Rachel looked away. That was when I noticed an envelope on the desk. I picked it up. Daniel, don't open that. I opened it. Inside was a loan agreement. But the name on the loan wasn't Mark's. It was Rachel's. She had taken out a loan using our house as collateral. My legs felt weak. You put our house at risk? I thought Mark would pay me back. You thought? He promised. Mark has never kept a promise in his life. Rachel flinched. I immediately regretted raising my voice. But the damage was already done. Then Ethan appeared in the doorway. Dad. I looked at him. He was crying. Are we losing the house? I felt my heart break. No, buddy. But Mom said we might have to move. Rachel closed her eyes. I walked toward Ethan. We're going to figure this out. But I didn't know if that was true. That night, Rachel slept in the guest room. I sat alone in my office. I checked every transaction. Then I noticed something strange. The money had not gone directly to Mark. It had been transferred to a company I had never heard of. The name was Northgate Financial Solutions. I searched for it. There was almost nothing online. No real website, no office photos, no customer reviews. Then I found a public business record. The company had been registered 6 months earlier. The owner's name was not Mark. It was Rachel. My heart stopped. I looked at the screen again. Rachel owned the company. She hadn't just given Mark money. She had created a company. Why? I went upstairs. Rachel was awake. Why is the company in your name? She stared at me. I didn't create it. Your name is on the registration. Mark said it was temporary. Why would he need your name? She began shaking. He said people were looking for him. What people? I don't know. Rachel, you have to tell me the truth. She looked toward the window. Then she said, Mark didn't ask me for money. I stared at her. What? He told me he had proof that you were cheating. The room went silent. What? He sent me pictures. Pictures of what? You with another woman. My anger disappeared. I felt sick. What woman? I don't know. Show me. Rachel opened her phone. There were photos of me outside a hotel, standing beside a woman. The photos looked real. I remembered the day. The woman was my coworker, Amanda. We had been inspecting a site near the hotel. But the pictures were taken from angles that made us look close. One photo showed Amanda touching my arm. Another showed us entering the hotel lobby. Rachel looked at me. Mark said you were having an affair. And you believed him? He said he had more evidence. What did he want? He said if I helped him, he would keep it quiet. Couldn't breathe. Mark blackmailed you? Rachel nodded. He said he would send the pictures to Ethan's school. He said he would tell everyone. Why didn't you call me? I was ashamed. Of what? Of believing him. That was the first twist. Rachel hadn't given Mark our money because she trusted him. She had given it to him because he had threatened to destroy our family. But there was still one problem. The money had gone to the company in Rachel's name, and the house was still at risk. The next morning I called my old friend, Victor. Victor was an accountant. I sent him the company information. 2 hours later, he called. Daniel, you need to sit down. Why? Then I called a lawyer. But the biggest twist came that afternoon. Mark showed up at our house. He looked exhausted. His clothes were dirty. His hands were shaking. Rachel ran toward him. Where have you been? Mark looked at me. I need to explain. I stepped forward. You have 5 seconds. He raised both hands. I didn't steal the money. I laughed. You used my wife's name. You used my son's identity. I didn't. Then who did? Mark looked at Rachel. Then he said, Your wife knows. Rachel turned pale. What are you talking about? Mark pulled out his phone. He played a recording. It was Rachel's voice. She was speaking to someone. I need more time. Daniel is coming home. Then another voice answered. Did you get the loan? Rachel whispered. Yes. I looked at her. My anger returned. You lied to me. Rachel collapsed into a chair. I didn't know what else to do. Who were you talking to? She began crying. My boss. Your boss. Rachel had worked at a small insurance office for 9 years. Her manager was named Paul. I had met him several times. He seemed friendly, but Rachel looked terrified. Paul told me he could help, she said. Help with what? He said Mark wasn't the problem. What does that mean? Rachel looked at Mark. Then Mark spoke. Paul has been stealing money from the company. The room went silent. He used Rachel's name to hide it, Mark continued. When I found out, he threatened me. Rachel shook her head. No. Mark looked at her. He told you Daniel was cheating because he needed you scared. He wanted you to sign the loan papers. I felt the world shift. The photos, the threats, the fake company, the missing money. It had all been planned. Paul had used Mark's debt to control him. Then he used fake photos to manipulate Rachel. And while I was away, he convinced my wife to sign documents that helped hide his theft. Rachel hadn't betrayed me. She had been trapped. But she had still hidden everything. And that secret had nearly destroyed us. The police investigated. The fake photos were traced to Paul's computer. The company records showed he had moved money through accounts connected to Rachel. Mark agreed to cooperate. He admitted he had helped at first. But when Paul tried to use Ethan's identity, Mark panicked. That was why he came to our house. Not to confess, but because he realized Paul was willing to destroy a child to protect himself. The final piece of evidence came from my work phone. Paul had accessed Rachel's emails. He had copied messages. Then he created fake conversations to make it look like I was cheating. The truth was worse than I expected. Paul had been planning it for months. He knew I would be away. He knew Rachel felt lonely. He knew she was afraid I might leave her. He used every weakness in our marriage against us. When the police arrested him, Paul looked at Rachel and said, "You should have trusted me." Rachel stared at him. Then she answered, "No, I should have trusted my husband. That moment stayed with me. Paul lost his job. He faced fraud charges. His lies were exposed. And the company he used to control people disappeared overnight. But karma didn't erase what happened to us. We still had debt. We still had legal bills. And Rachel and I had to rebuild trust. For months, we barely spoke without arguing. Sometimes I looked at her and remembered the empty bank account. Sometimes she looked at me and remembered the fake photos. We were both hurt. We were both ashamed. But one night, Ethan came into the kitchen. He placed a drawing on the table. It showed our family standing in front of the house. Above us, he had written, "Home is where people tell the truth." Rachel started crying. I looked at my son. Then I looked at my wife. And I understood something. The money mattered. The house mattered. But our family mattered more. I reached across the table. Rachel took my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry too." "For what?" "For being away so much that you felt alone." She shook her head. "That doesn't excuse what I did." "No. But it explains why we have to change." We sold our second car. We moved into a smaller home. I took a local job. Paid less. But every evening I came home. And every night we ate dinner together. Months later, Ethan brought out the telescope I had bought him. We stood in the backyard. He pointed toward the sky. "Dad, do you think people can fix things after they break?" I looked at Rachel. Then I looked back at him. "Some things never go back to the way they were." He lowered the telescope. "Then what happens? You build something better." That night, I realized I had come home expecting a happy reunion. Instead, I found my wife sobbing, my son confused, my savings gone, and my marriage hanging by a thread. I thought betrayal had destroyed my family. But the truth was more complicated. We had all made mistakes. We had all kept secrets. And those secrets gave the wrong person power over us. The day I checked our bank account, I thought I was discovering the end of my marriage. But I was actually discovering how far someone had gone to tear us apart. And in the end, the person who tried to destroy our family lost everything he had built. While we lost money, we found the truth. And sometimes, the truth is the only thing strong enough to bring a broken family home.